Good morning, beautiful people. We're going to talk about something just briefly because actually, I don't know if I'm behind the times with this or if it's just something it's not in my experience in my life or in my area. I don't know. Um, but somebody was talking about, they made a statement on Backyard Chickens that some people use coffee grounds for their coop bedding. And I went, what the heck would they do that for? Um, and I could think of all kinds of reasons it would be a bad idea. It started out with somebody asking if chickens would eat the coffee grounds that his mom put in the garden, if he let the chickens in the garden. And I said, well, of course they'll taste test it. You know, they don't know what it is. They'll taste test it, sure. And they may or may not eat it. Because, I mean, people think chickens automatically avoid things that are poisonous to them, and for the most part, that's true. However, I've watched my chickens out there. We got mistletoe up here in these oak trees, and if a clump of mistletoe falls down, they will pick at it. Some will pick it, and then they'll walk away from it. Others will pick at it, and they'll keep trying to eat the leaves, okay? It's a thick leaf, so they'll keep trying to eat it. And so, yeah, they'll avoid it for the most part, but some of them aren't that bright. So, anyway, and I said, I don't know. I don't think caffeinated coffee would be a good idea. I don't think you want chickens on caffeine. Do you want chickens on caffeine? Not me. But then somebody made a statement about the chickens, some people use coffee grounds for their bedding. I went, what? And so I did a search. And I found there's a company or two that actually use recycled coffee grounds and make chicken bedding out of it. I only just now heard about that. I went, what? And it looks odd. I mean, brown bedding, it looks very strange. But they recycle it and they dry it out and all that kind of stuff. Well, I just now heard about this. Maybe I'm behind the times, but where they were talking about rural, I can't say rural anymore, Rural King sells it. But see, I don't have anything like that here. We have no Rural King down here. And there's some other places that I've heard of that we don't have here. We've got Tractor Supply, sure. I got at least 3 within driving distance of my house, or four maybe, I don't know. A lot of them. But coffee ground bedding, let's just speak English. Coffee ground bedding, try to say that 3 times fast. It's kind of harder than you think. It may be sold in your area, okay? And it's marketed as smelling nice. Of course, I love the smell of coffee, sure. Smelling nice, no dust, unlike pine shavings that break down. Now, that's not the only source of dust in a barn to pine shavings. It's also the feed itself, feather dander. They scratch and scratch and scratch, all kinds of stuff. But I want to come up here and talk about this for just a minute. Now, like I said, I've just found out this is a thing. And I did a call. I checked to see the prices of that. The prices of that. Okay, first there's the cost, and then is it good for your chickens to have that? Okay, I found that a 35-pound bag, not cubic feet, but 35 pounds, the weight. Shavings are not sold by weight. They're usually sold by how many cubic feet they expand to. They may have the poundage on the bag or something. I don't think it's on mine. I buy 2 or 3 different brands of shavings. One, the co-op has one, and sometimes they'll have a different one. The other feed store has a different one. So I buy a bag, a compacted bag of kiln-dried pine shavings for $10. It used to be $7, of course, and now nothing is what it used to be. But $10, and it expands to 10 cubic feet, not 10, square feet, but 10 cubic feet, So it expands. It breaks apart. It expands, and so I thought, well, what would it cost to do this? Because it seems to me every new fad costs either in money or time. Okay, 35-pound bag costs $20, $19.95 is the first what I saw. And I did some research and tried to find how many square feet it covers. And they say this will cover. First, I checked AI. AI is, you have to correct AI. AI is useless a lot of time. It'll say, well, it will 12 square feet at a height, a depth of 1/2 to 1 inch. That's only like that. And it didn't tell. I said, well, yeah, but what size coop? How many square feet at 1 inch depth? Let's just say 1 inch depth, because my shavings have 2 or 3 inches depth. I mean, not 1 inch. If I could see if it was 1 inch and it's this coffee ground kind of consistency, it's going to have a lot of bare floor in there. They're going to scratch it apart. They're not going to leave it there. Pine shavings, they provide a cushion, and they can't scratch it down to the bare floor as easily as they could something like that. That's equivalent to sand, aromatic sand at that. But okay, so a 35-pound bag will cost you $20 and cover 12 square feet of floor space at a 1 inch depth. Okay, now I have 2 or 3 inches depth, usually 2 by the time they pound it down, inch depth in the pins, because if they jump down from any surface and they land on the floor's wooden, yes, and it gives a slight bit, but they can hurt their legs, and so it provides a little bit of a cushion, a landing cushion. So let's use my own barn as an example. But a lot of people don't have the barn. I don't have the size barn I do. I've got all my pins in a barn to try to work smarter, not harder, so I don't have to go from this pin to this pin to this pin into these different buildings, cleaning up in the morning like I used to have to do. So my steel barn, is 20 feet by 24 feet. Okay, as outside measurement, just a basic measurement, 20 by 24 is 480 square feet. Now, it may have the actual square footage inside the pens themselves may be closer to 400, maybe a little even less, but it's close to 4. Just round it up to say 400 square feet in the barn without the aisle, without the center aisle and the little back storage area. Okay, at 12 square feet per bag per $20 bag, to fill that 400 square feet, to cover that floor at a depth of 1 inch, is a total of $660 just for the bedding. Yikes. Now, if you have 2 or 3 little hens in a tiny little coop, like the city yuppie types in Portland, Oregon. No insult meant to Portland, but y'all got some flakes over there, and they're everywhere. Like in a chicken keeping book I read, and I enjoyed the book. It was a lady who lived in the city, and she had gardens, and she wanted chickens for fresh eggs, and she baked a lot, and it was a really cute little romantic kind of book. Okay, chicken keeping, and she was in Portland, Oregon. Even if you have 2 hens in a tiny little coop, remember 12 square feet is only like 6 by 10. That's no, wait a minute. No, hang on. What did I just say? Oh my gosh. So that is a tiny little coop. So you could put your bedding in your little 3 foot by 4 foot coop with your 2 little hens at a 1 inch depth for $35. The price of 3.5 bags of shavings for me. That covers 10 cubic feet. This expands to 10 cubic feet. My biggest pen in the barn is like 9 by 8. So you can see I had to have quite a few bags just to fill one of those pens in there. It's also very aromatic. It smells like coffee. It smells like a coffee house, okay? That's what I understand. And aromatics, you must learn. Chickens can be very sensitive, and to the point of death, to aromatics, like citronella. or tea tree oil. If you douse all the roofs with tea tree, now it's not like if you take. I used to sand my roofs, and when I got them nice and smooth, what I did to preserve the wood and keep the poop from sticking so bad is I take a cup of vegetable oil or olive oil, and I put 2 drops of tea tree in there, 2 drops in a cup. And I would take a rag and I would rub it on the newly sanded roofs. And the tea tree was supposed to be an anti-bug kind of thing, but it wasn't enough for them to get a snootful of it, okay? And they couldn't eat it like you can if you stick it on their legs and whatnot. So, which would be fatal. So, considering that coffee is sort of aromatic, I don't know that it's dangerous as something like cedar. But you have to consider chickens are highly sensitive to aromatics. So, I wouldn't even wear some strong perfume. Now, I wear fragrance, but I wouldn't wear a really strong perfume or grab a chicken and hug it if I just sprayed myself with perfume, okay? You just don't want that. It's bad for the respiratory system. So if it's that aromatic, that makes ventilation in the coop much more critical, much more critical. Now, it's not that if it smells nice to you, that's not the big factor. The factor is if it's safe for your chickens who are low to the ground, especially chicks, and will have their face right in it. So the example I mentioned, cedar shavings. Cedar shavings are dangerous to fill your coop with. Yes, it smells nice, but it's too aromatic for chickens and it causes respiratory issues. Anything with a scent like this should always be considered very carefully. I'm not telling you not to do it. I'm just saying you need to think about these considerations before you jump on this fad bandwagon of these. More power to you if you got the money to fill your coop with that stuff. But anyway, I guess you could, if you wanted to use it kind of as a deodorizer, take a bag and in your kill-dried pine shaving bedding, you could sprinkle a handful around inside the bedding. And yeah, they're gonna eat it. I don't know if they'll continue eating, but they will eat it. Now, an entire coop of it, especially with the lack of ventilation I see all the time, I'm thinking that might be a little bit overwhelming for a chicken. They can't get away from it. They can't get away from it. So you don't want to make something they can't get away from if it's unpleasant or not making them feel bad. So anyway, fads come and go, like coffee ground bedding and fermented feed. And some are not even worth trying. And at this price, it's not coming into my barn, even if I ever saw a bag anywhere. This is just my honest opinion. Yeah, it probably smells good, but that's not the criteria for your chicken's health of whether it smells good to you, a human being. So that's all I want to do. Let's just mention that. Never heard of coffee ground bedding. Recycle coffee ground bedding. Yes, it's dried. At first, I thought they took their own coffee grounds after they drank their coffee and dried them out and put them in the coop. That's what I thought they were talking about. I never even heard of this stuff. So there's some things to consider. Always consider before you do anything new for your chickens that's unusual, and that's unusual. And like I said, a lot of people build chicken coops, but they may not know anything about chickens per se. And it's the same thing with this. This company manufactured bedding for chickens out of recycled materials. I think the intention was good, but do they know anything about chickens? I don't know. So that's all I want to say. That's one little thing, and I got to get off. I didn't expect to even be here for 14 minutes. I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit, so maybe it won't be 14 when you see it. That's all. Talk to you later. Bye.